I am so excited to have with me as my special guest on the Closing Act Music and Entertainment Program, accomplished musician and author Kathy Bushnell, who co-founded the first female rock duo in Britain. And she's going to be talking about her successful career, her memoir, and what is next for her. Kathy, welcome.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here. It's really a joy, and really, I'm
Well,
thrilled.
Kathy, you are a trailblazer. You're also gutsy, and I can't help it. We are both co authors in the book, if I can display it, Woman's 262. I read your story on page 266, and it says, Be gutsy. Well, that you are. It's a beautiful story. Um, and just for those who have not picked up the book, it is again 262 Woman from Deb Drummond. So I just loved the story. And was it difficult to write it, Kathy?
For this chapter at the 262 book, um, I had written one, and it wasn't really right. So I really rewrote it or started over and captured a lot more of my childhood and what brought me into this, and also how my grandfather, who played violin, influenced me and calmed me down sort of with his violin playing if I was upset.
Yes. And I really like the end. Now, I told you about me. I'm just paraphrasing. Now I want to hear about you. Isn't that it's just like it's just so inviting. And I just took something from it and that's why you are such a trailblazer. And you've always, from my understanding, been very performance driven. You've taken dance, the performing arts. You are very disciplined to do that, and furthermore, a musician. I understand you played piano when you were 8, if that's correct.
Yes, yes. I took classical
Yes.
piano lessons. I started that when I was 8.
Yeah, so you come from a family of musicians.
Yes, my dad played acoustic guitar and some folk songs, and then it was my I have one brother, and so he's 2 years older than me, and um, we used to have family informal, we called family orchestras, and my mom, who was blind actually, she played
Mhm.
ukulele and kazoo, and also she played a comb with wax paper on it from the whatever the 40s or whatever, and it's sort of a buzzing sound, but you can hear the melody. And my brother plays violin, and I play on the piano. So we had fun as a family doing that occasionally.
That is so special. Like, I mean, it's like I read some about you. So you have a dance major. Is that correct? Is that
Yes, I went to the School of Performing Arts, which is really the High School of Performing Arts, but they call it the School of Performing Arts. And it's actually the same school that they made a movie about, the Fame movie. I'm Gonna Live Forever with, yeah, Irene Cara. That's the school that I went to. And we really did dance during lunch.
hmm.
So it was a
So
very,
it's
yeah.
so music came first before dance, or did they go together like hand in hand?
No, dance actually came because I'm from California originally, and my parents put me in with a dance teacher, Mimi Kagan, and she used to have us just leap around like butterflies and things because I was very young. But I loved it, and then when I moved to New York City with my family, then I took ballet lessons at Joffrey's and modern dance lessons, and I was part of a modern dance company. They had a children's department, but we performed with the grown-ups in Manhattan, and really performance oriented. You had to be, be 10 years old, and you have to be at dress rehearsals and not say a word. The grown-ups were on stage going through their part, but then we also were on stage too at the same time. So we have grown-ups in the company flying past us on stage. So it was I could not have been the first female rock duo, part of that, and opening concerts for thousands of people, um, if I had not had performing experience and knew that I had to be professional always.
Mhm. So it helped, right? And you've always been a performer. Such you have, you have it in your genes, if I may say, and and it's but it's was there that pivotal moment, Kathy, that it's music. I want to be a professional musician.
Yes, I actually have a defining moment. It may sound a bit corny, but I was very interested in folk and blues and everything. But when the British invasion happened, that's when I was a teenager. So I'm giving my age. I'm older, but I don't mind because I lived in an incredible time to tour and everything. Um, but the actual moment was when I was in there were two moments on the same day. It was a Girl Scout meeting, rather the day before, like Girl Guides in Canada and other countries. And so we were doing something with first aid, and someone had snuck in a transistor radio to the meeting, and all of a sudden, She Loves You comes on the radio, and everyone stopped. The entire meeting just fell apart, and everyone rushed over to the radio to hear the Beatles singing, "I love you," and "I want to hold your hand," and "She loves
Oh
me,"
yes.
and it was just that was a pivotal moment. But I think the next evening, the Beatles were on the Ed Sullivan Show for the first time, and I made sure to watch that, and that was that pivotal moment. Um, and this sounds probably kind of, I don't know, it probably sounds a
Yes.
little bit arrogant or something, but I just secretly thought, I can do this. Not necessarily their fame, but I just have already been secretly writing some songs, um, on the piano, and because it was the British invasion, and it just influenced my life.
Yes. I mean, how many instruments do you play? There's the harmonica, there's the the piano. Like, I mean, what was your first instrument, Kathy?
My first instrument was piano, definitely.
Okay, yes.
The classical piano, and with my family, I took. But because we were in New York, my piano teacher gave lessons. This is in Manhattan. My piano teacher gave lessons at the Mannes College of Music, and so every time I went to my lesson every week, I'd be going, up the steps of this college of music, and it was very well known in Manhattan. And I would walk down the aisle to the room where I had my lesson, but there'd be people singing opera, and just keyboards. It was just so inspiring. And I had to also, instead of having a recital, I was required to play for certain people. And one year it was for um, Van
Yes.
Cliburn, who's the amazing pianist, some people say pianist, for his mother, who was visiting in New York, because I think they're from Texas. And so that was pretty, that was pretty intense. And she said I had a nice feeling and I played nicely. She just wanted me to work on more scales. I'm very honest enough. just,
Yeah.
yeah. But I've always had a lot of pressure, for performing, sort of, and it was almost the norm. Even taking ballet classes as a young teen at Joffrey's, which has its own company and still does, or whatever. It's so a lot of pressure,
Yeah.
but I love the arts.
Yeah, for musical, were there any music influences rather? Um, I understand blues, Christine Perfect. Was that one of the influences, if I may ask?
Absolutely, and I was thinking about this interview
Yeah.
earlier today, and her and I said to myself, I'm going to mention her, so we're right on the same page. When I went to Britain and just to visit and everything, and the first time, but the, like, when I moved back, we had met some musicians, some rock musicians and blues musicians, and they said, "We want you girls." I had gone over to Britain with a friend of mine from college, and her name is Janet. And
Yes.
so they said, Janet and Kathy, please come with us. We think you'll like it. There's a woman who plays, and her name is Christine Perfect, which she later married John McVie and Christine McVie of Fleetwood Mac. But when we saw her in a small club, and it was a blues club in London, and it was around 67, 68, and she just blew me away in terms of the fact that here was a female blues woman um, frontlining a blues band, with the other musicians doing there, and she just wrote songs, and she's passed away recently, young and very 2 years ago, I guess now. But I
Mm.
just she, she had gone past the microphone on the broom handle in your bedrooms, which a lot of
Oh,
people do, pretending, and she was actually living her dreams, and she was probably one of the biggest influences in my life, especially then. So it's wonderful that you brought her up. She was great.
yes. When you look back on your life, creating, co-founding the first female rock duo in Britain, and when the word comes up, um, duo, it means just you and Janet. So how difficult was that? I mean, when I think of duos, I think that everything should work out well. Like, um, but how much do you have to prepare and be in sync?
Yes, there's especially because we were touring. This is jumping ahead a bit, but we were touring with a band that was very popular in Britain, and they sold out all their concerts. And so we started out with a couple of clubs with them, but then suddenly we were playing 2,000 a night,
Mm.
concert halls throughout the UK. And so it would just be the two of us. I mean, we would open the concert and open the show, and it was just a huge responsibility, but we were very professional, very determined, and we were plugged. We played electric guitar, so we didn't have to play acoustic guitar. We could play it, but we had two Fender Telecaster electric guitars and one 12-string Rickenbacker guitar. And then later on, we got an electronic keyboard because one venue was keys were missing and it was out of tune. So, and then I had been playing some harmonica. I was influenced by some of the older people, but especially I used to go and see the Rolling Stones, so Mick Jagger and Brian Jones played it. Both played mean blues harmonicas, and that was it. And then I met someone as a friend in Britain who actually, Derek Hussey, and he actually ended up being the lead singer for a band later on. And so we both continued with music, and we didn't know that. But he
Mm.
taught me how to play harmonica. There's a certain technique, he said, you have to try this. And as soon as I tried it, that was it for me. And I still play a mean blues harp today. Even out, I played recently with someone I know.
Yeah, I mean, that is just amazing. Like, I just, you set, if I may say, the tone or the path for other women, but that, I mean, it must have been challenging. Some highlights, of course, but challenging to, I mean, to do. Like, were there any? Can you share with our audience about some of the challenges having, a rocker band, um, with, setting the path for other women? And I
Yes,
applaud you. And
it was a tough road, and I did write my memoir, Em Moo, Legacy of a '60s Female Rock Duo, and I was really upfront, really upfront. This is how it was, and it was such a tough road because in the beginning, we were two females, so people assumed that we were groupies and would make kind of sleazy remarks and things. And then we had auditioned for the band called Family, who was very big in Britain.
yes.
And that one day, it was an informal audition in their front parlor. And there was a musician there who was with Traffic, but he's very well known, Dave Mason. And he was in the room also that day. But they immediately played about, I don't know, 3 or 4 numbers. And they had heard that through the grapevine that Janet and I were writing songs. We lived in a basement bedsit, which is like a studio apartment on the same street as Family. And all these synchronicities happened. And they, right then and there, everyone in the band Family, or most of them were there, said, we want you to open concerts for us and talk to our manager. And I can talk.
Mm.
That was an honor, but luckily Janet had done performing too. So I think our third gig was at Colston Hall in Bristol, and it was to over 2,000. So, but it was tough because in the beginning I was wearing mini skirts. It was, it was kind of late-ish, 60, 67, 68. And guys were looking at us sideways, kind of, trying to get glimpses. And so I started lowering my hemlines and, listen to the music, guys. Come on.
Yes.
And then they started listening more to the music as we became more well known um, throughout the circuit. But it was tough. We had some sleazy remarks. And also, the same day that we auditioned, I need to say this, it's not always comfortable, but they gave us, we didn't have a name exactly for our duo. We had thought about names. And then they said, well, one of the members said, well, how about you can be called Emily Muff? Now, we thought it kind of had a nice ring to it, ladies and gentlemen, all the way from America, Emily Muff. It sounds cute, but we didn't realize that the second word had a sleazy kind of sexual connotation until we were on a train on our way to rehearse in Wales. And so we spent a lot of hours that night trying to decide, would we confront and not accept that name after all, but we were already being billed throughout the UK for the first tour that we were going on. So, and we decided to keep it. And nowadays there's so many other names, like Courtney Cox had a name, and then there's a group from Russia, which really has an explicit name, even more so. And then there are people who are performing in very skimpy outfits that you can see a lot of anatomy. And so nowadays it's just a little different anyway, or even out there. So, and it's okay. It's a very unique name. And they gave us 2 nicknames that day to Em. They said, Janet, you can be Em, and Kathy, you can be Moo. It's a bovine name, but it's okay.
That is,
But then soon Janet and I started calling each other Em and Moo as well. And so it's okay. And that's what I decided to call, like you showed them, Em and Moo, my memoir, Em and Moo, Legacy of the '60s Female Rock Duo. Anyway. So that's kind of how that happened. And I just don't book signings at Girl Scout meetings or anything, because of the name. But on the other hand, it's pretty well accepted now. People make remarks about it. It's okay.
I, it's what a story, and I want to go and show the audience the book if I can. I just congratulations on your book, and there's lots of great highlights in here, and I don't want to. I want people to buy the book, but can you share some highlights? Like, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the main things I would like to say, which is in the book, and I had to wait really until I'm glad I waited to write it after the Me Too movement, because we did encounter what's called the casting couch scenario, and
Mm.
what was supposed to be a lucrative recording contract with a very large, prominent, record company, and I don't really. I'd rather people read about it, but it was very uncomfortable. We were sort of propositioned, um, and so we actually walked out of the meeting and headed for the door. And the hardest part for me was walking down to the exit, past all the gold records that were lining the walls, because that just was like all the things that we missed. But I can sleep at night because we didn't compromise our principles. And that's one reason I wrote the memoir, was to inspire people, male and female. I've heard stories about both, being propositioned, musicians, actors, and to live your dreams without compromising your principles. And I'm happy to say that I was contacted in 2017 by Cherry Red Records and Grapefruit Records, and
Oh,
they wanted an Emily Muff track on this 3 CD box set in 2017. And so we have a track on there, no strings attached. I'm just so proud to be recognized, as a, a musician without having to, you
yeah,
know.
that's beautiful. That's wonderful. And
Yeah.
is it in the moonlight, or what's the song, Kathy? That in
Uh,
the
the song, and it's on YouTube too.
yes,
It's called Pass PASS the Night, Pass the Night by Emily Muff.
past the night. Okay.
But what's
Yes.
wonderful about this, even though it is a lot of female vocal folk and singer songwriters, I questioned the record company about this, and they said, "Well, actually, there's quite a few rock bands in here too. We just didn't want to have to write the whole thing." But it has. It's I'm so honored to be on it because Melanie's on it, Joan Baez is on it. I mean, Laura,
Hmm.
I could go on and on and on and on, and it's such an honor. Linda Ronstadt's on it. Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. It is wonderful. And tell us describe your music and some of your songs. As I said in the moonlight before, could you tell the audience about some of your, because you write all your songs. You've never done covers or anything, right? It's
Never did a cover. We were both wrote songs, but "In the Moonlight" is just one song that I did by myself years later. So it's not
hmm,
really. If listeners go to my website for my book, Em Moo, so it's www.kathybushnell.com, and there is a drop down box on this website, on the website, and it says, it's the second drop down, and it says the music, and so it has those are Emily Muff, some
hmm.
takes on it and everything. So it's like the Past the Night is an Emily Muff duo song that we did. It's actually an outtake, but the record company didn't care. There's a few mistakes that I made on it. I was playing some flute, a lot of flute, and but they said no, no, and I said, well, I don't know, if we should submit this. He said, we're not taking no for an answer. That's it. And they had two more slots for songs for the whole three CD box set. And he said, we want Emily Milk on this. And it's such an honor. Just,
Yes.
yeah.
I mean,
So,
Kathy, where do you get your inspiration to write? Where does it come from? Like,
in different eras, like in the beginning, it was the British invasion, sort of, just the excitement of that. And then the couple of songs that I have at the end, of one of my other appearances, um, that that's just kind of corny, and I was just fooling around. And Janet was actually the lead vocalist. I will give her that. She had a great voice, and you know, I just, before we started practicing as a duo, she came in and one afternoon, we shared the bedsit studio. But I had been writing a song uh, myself, and there was some lyrics, and she came in and she said, "Oh, what are you doing?" Because we didn't even know. So we didn't know when we went on vacation or on holiday to Bridge in the summer before that we had even both played music and wrote music. It was only when we decided to move back to Britain 6 months later, and we decided against our parents' wishes, because we were 18 and 3,000 miles away, but that we were determined to live in Britain. We had fallen in love with London, and that was it. I still love London. So, but and so she walked in. I'm telling this for a reason. She walked in, and I was just kind of singing a song, and she said she picked up the lyric sheet and started belting out the lyrics. And I said, Janet, why don't you sing the lead song and I'll do the harmonies? And so that was it. And I stepped back. No, I'm very humble. If somebody's better than me, that's fine. And so that's when really our duo
yeah.
started.
You have a beautiful voice, Kathy. So just two gifted female rockers. Now, with describing your music, like, is it like rock music at the time, or how would you describe it?
Well, I think because we didn't have an album from that time, and we did have some recordings of songs from that time, but most of the harder numbers were with bar chords and just heavy rhythms and things together, were not kept. Like, for example, we also did some backup vocals for the band Family, and they were pretty powerful vocals, but that wasn't saved by the BBC. It was recorded, but it was the same day that the Beatles did their rooftop appearance, and so everything else was wiped out. That's an example of, of but so a lot of people think to this day in a way that we were a kind of a soft rock group, but we really weren't. I just got a message on Facebook from somebody who said they had seen, because I like feedback from people who saw us years ago, and he said, "Well, I saw you at De Montfort Hall in Leicester, and we knew that we were billed as a duo, so everybody was just sitting there because we knew we would open the show, and they were waiting for two women to come out with acoustic guitars and sing folk." And I don't mind folk. I love folk music. But he said we were blown away. He said there was like an audible gasp that rippled through the audience. What? That kind of thing. And they were just blown away because the Family was a pretty loud rock band, very eclectic in many ways. And so were we. We did key changes and rhythm changes and quirky things. So Um, but it was just incredible. It was, I don't
Mhm.
know. That's all I can say. We just poured our hearts out. And the third concert that we played, I wrote a two guitar instrumental, but I really wrote just the back part of it, sort of the basics of it. And Janet again said, let me try adding something onto it. And she added the guitar to it. And Christine, it was exactly what I heard in my head. That's the kind of rapport that she and I had musically was phenomenal.
Mhm.
And so we played that song, and it was our first concert hall. And it was near the end of our set, and it was a huge concert hall, and family, like I was saying, was very loud, and they had huge stacks of Marshall amplifiers that were so loud, and when we plugged in, our music just soared throughout the venue, all of them. And um, so when it finished and the final notes of our instrumental called Essence faded away, the audience rose up and gave us a standing ovation. That was our third gig. That was one of the
Mhm.
moments in my life that I felt, wow, I'm sharing, music with the world. And then people stopped uh, making as many sleazy remarks and things. They started accepting us as a more bona fide, uh, rock trio and
Oh,
music scene.
wow. Kathy, I'm going to show the book again. What has the feedback been like so far
What is the
from
what?
the feedback from your book so
Oh,
far?
I get a lot of feedback from it, and I would say that the most important feedback, and also the most people that say the same type of thing, is I love your book because it takes me on a journey about your
Mm.
rock duo, and I feel like I'm standing next to you the entire time, and that to me is a compliment. I mean, that was my goal, was to write it somewhat simplistically, just so it would catch people's attention and swoop them up and just engross them, and
Yeah.
I,
It definitely is an incredible journey. You met the Rolling Stones. You've done. I don't want to reveal too much because we want to get people to buy the book. But is there any highlights that you do want to share, like fun, exciting moment, if you may share with the audience?
well, I wanted to actually share because I was pretty gutsy from from age 16. I mean, it's in the second chapter or something. And I was doing my
Yeah.
algebra homework, and I was 16, and the DJ, New York DJ, famous one, Murray the K, said, "Oh, there's a rumor the Stones are going to be hanging out at the phone booth club in Midtown Manhattan tonight," and blah blah blah. And so I wrote down, phone booth club next to a quadratic equation, closed my algebra book, which I didn't usually do, but went, asked my brother, begged my brother Alan to take me, and he said, none unless you clean my room for X number of months. But anyway, he said, never mind, or, later. But so our parents, because my mother was blind, she used to listen to the radio.
Mm.
And Dawn was, although she was a psychologist, so she worked groups and conveys and things. And but anyway, so gave us permission to go. So long story short, we went to the phone booth club, and my brother and I had a funny, rapport sort of in between, a love hate kind of thing, not hate, but we would. So that's funny in the book how we got in because I was underage and things like that. But anyway, so he took us to the bar. We got in because I was pretending to be. I suggested to pretend to be his tipsy girlfriend because he was 18 and I was 16. And so
You
anyway,
know, I I think of how brave, how gutsy, and so full of passion that you just went for it, and fearless, and I would like to know, and well, the audience, I would believe, want to know too, like how, what drives you? What drives you still? Like what gets you to do these amazing, the book is amazing, and what you do as a professional musician. Like tell us how was it just innate? I know you come from a family of musicians, but what drove you to be so successful?
Well, I think it was expected of me, but it was expected of me to be going to academia and become a professor like my parents or something like that. And I was hooked by the British invasion and after that too. But so I was 16 when I heard that ad for, that rumor, the phone booth book. And but why I really wanted to go there was not to hang out with Stones and ogle them. It was to tell, if I got to meet them, my goal was to tell them how much I love their music and why, and details about it. So I was able to do that, and I mean, it's just, especially with Keith Richards, um, I was very gutsy, and it was just poured out of me. I wanted to tell him, and he thought I was just, you know, at the beginning, I just said, "Are you Keith Richards?" And I knew he was. He had posters of him all over the place. But and he said, "No, I'm not." And I told myself, "Yes, you are." So I waited, and he turned away, and I turned back to him, and I'm 16, and I said, "Well, I think," and loud enough for him to hear a bit of the ways down the bar because he was standing on his own. I said, "Well, I think Keith Richards' guitar solo on Heart of Stone is really groovy, man." And I waited, and he turned back to me, and he smiled, and he said, "Thanks, love," like he knew. And then I got to speak with Bill Wyman, their Stones bassist, and also Brian Jones, who I'm so glad I met that night because he didn't make it a lot longer. So, and I was able to tell him, even though his girlfriend at the time, and he didn't tell him, was sitting with him and wasn't pleased that I was talking some music. But all I did was just talk. He was a little negative at the beginning, but I just said, I wanted to just tell you how much I like the fact that you're a multi-instrumentalist, and I like your, guitar and harp playing and harmonic playing. And he just gave me a beautiful smile. I think that a lot of musicians didn't expect females to be, talking about music to them as much in those days. That was like 65.
Wow. What advice would you give to women who want to pursue a professional music career?
Well, let me just back up just 1 second because I had a
Mhm.
book signing at Barnes and Noble, which was amazing because it's a self-published book. But they liked my story enough to invite me for a solo book signing at one of the bookstores. But I was sitting fairly near the front of the store, and I would ask people because they didn't mind. So, what age range are you? Or just, joke around a little bit. So this one woman walked in, and she came right to the table. I want to say this on purpose. She said to me, right, just from the, she, and she walked over, and I knew she was pretty elderly to me. And she said, "I'm 92, and I've been a concert pianist my entire life and career. But I love the music of the 60s and late 60s, early 70s, and I drove here to get a copy of your book, which you autographed it for me." And I said, "Of course," and I'm so honored, that she took the time and drove there. And so I'm saying this because my personal sort of survey from that book signing, people 18 years old to 92 were at the book signing for my book. So people say to me, "Oh, you're living in the past," or "Oh, you wrote this just for baby boomers." No, I wrote it for anyone to inspire anyone. Look at this woman; she's 92, and she was inspired by my story. So, I mean, it's so anyway. But in terms of women, let's say you were asking about wanting a career, to me, I think it's very important to be professional, whatever that means to you, because you can run into situations where there are unexpected situations. And also, like I said, to know what your principles are, what you're willing to do and or not do to, get an album or a manager or whatever. And it's still going on today somewhat. I think it's probably a little easier for women who either are married to their manager or in a band with band member they're married to or dating. They have sort of some built-in protection, male protection that we did not really have. Members of family did, shoot people off, sort of, but it was still tough being two young women alone, basically. So, but just to keep going, live your dreams. Just keep going, and don't copy everybody. You don't have to wear the same outfits as people are, famous people are doing it. Just be yourself, and that's what we did because the second manager that we had was like, I mean, he wanted us to dress in slick outfits like the Supremes, gold gown, laminated type of gowns, and that wasn't. I love the Supremes. The vocal group, fabulous. Diana Ross, and et cetera, et cetera. And but that wasn't our, you know, ode of music. And so, um, we dressed how we wanted to, and that was a reflection of our music, sort of like the Beatles in a sense, but not overly.
Well, thank you, Kathy, for sharing and giving your advice. And Kathy, what is next for you?
I know what is next for me because people are clamoring for it, but I don't know if it will come to pass. And that is people, because they love reading my book, they want a movie made out of it because they want to go to the theater because it's such a visual and an emotional journey and just ups and downs and it's wild. It's just whoa. And that there's a lot of celebrities in there too, a lot. And so, but I really, so I've approached some filmmakers, directors, and I'm still kind of searching for the right person. It has to, a people group, has to be, I think an indie film would be great for it because it's sort of, that would be a reflection of our journey, as two trailblazers rather than a Hollywood film. But I'll take the Hollywood film too. I'm not crying. I have an allergy, but so that's what I'm sort of working on now. Is just I want someone who loves my book and my story and is passionate about it and wants to get it on the screen and it can be a budget film. That's fine with me. There's so many people that say to me, I want to just sit in a movie theater or even just, put Netflix on and just whatever on, my TV, whatever at home and just chill out and watch your story because I love your story.
Yeah.
I think that would draw me more because sometimes people don't even want to read a book. It's not that long a book and it's easy to read, except during the tough times where it really
Wow.
I just,
it's wonderful. And yeah, if people, could you please give your website again and to get a copy of the book? Where can we go, Kathy?
Okay. Well, actually, let me start with the book because it is, it's published, self-published by Wisdom House Books, and I think they did a phenomenal job with the cover. I can be walking with that book and people will stop. What is that book? The cover is it's just mind-boggling. It's gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Reflection of. So it's available. I have some in libraries, but also it's on Amazon. It's I mean, mainly people are getting from Amazon. And I published it in 2020, and it came out 2 weeks before the pandemic hit. And so there were 4 years, 3 years, where there were nothing, no interviews, except online, but so book signings and things that weren't. So it's been out for a while. Again, I'm very upfront, and so Amazon does have some copies that are, less expensive. And I'd rather have someone order a less expensive one and read my book and my story, or you can, order the regular price, which is it's I mean it's a paperback, so it's not that expensive.
Mm-hmm.
I would be honored, and I hope to see people at book signings, in the future too. I love meeting people who are interested, and I talk to people in stores too if they're wearing a Beatles shirt or whatever. They'll say, "Well, I saw the Beatles at Shea Stadium in '65," and they go, "What? Tell me!" I mean, people just want to know. So I'm glad to do this because it's sort of my bucket list now. I'm older now, and I want to share my story because it was so unique. I could sit here and name drop, and that's not to name drop. It's because who influenced me. That was really important to me too. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah. In fact, I'm still
Kathy.
in Richards. Okay, I mean I know Richards, but yeah.
Kathy, it was a pleasure to have you on the program. I'd like to invite you back because I could talk to you all day. But yeah, I mean, it is just so wonderful for you to share your story and not to give out too much, but here's the book again. And you're in 2622. I'm just going to, just a bit of a shout out to Deb Drummond. And, I just thank you so much for your time today, Kathy. It was such a pleasure to have you.
Well, I'm so honored to be here, and it's a pleasure to share my story. And I know I could go on longer too, but I like the rapport that we have. It's amazing, and I think we understand each other. And thank you for offering me a platform to heartfelt,
Like I
to describe my journey to people and share it, or just pique their interest sort of. And I love my book, not just because I wrote it, but because it's, like I said, very heartfelt. And I tell it like it was, and it's not sugar coated, but it's also ups and downs, but beautiful. It's really, I love it.
And right before in the intro, be gutsy. I love it. And that's so I just love it. So I will have you back on the program, Kathy.
Well,
Thank
I'd be
you.
honored, really. It's fine anytime. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.